يا أهلا وسهلا. أهلا وسهلا فيكم. أنا اسمي كيلب وأنا طالب ببرنامج آم، يعني doctorate program لعلم نفس، وحاليا عم بدرس المخ. فاليوم آه، بدي أعمل شي 4 أو 5 فيديوهات مشان فسر لكم شو في براسنا. يعني بدي أحكي عن أم، كل الهياكل بالمخ. أم، الهياكل يعني الستراكشرز، الهياكل الرئيسيات principal structures. و ايه فكرت انه راح بلش بعربي لانه ما بدي انسى عربي، ونعرف انه long term potentiate هي اهم شيء باتعلم لغة. وعم بخسر عربيتي. بعيش هون بامريكا لانه ما عم بحكي. فايه وكمان عندي قهوة بالفنجان لانه بدي بلوك الادينوزين ريسبتورز لحتى يركز احسن. وكمان ما بدي يكون نعسان قدامكم. عكل هال راح بلش مع الهايند برين، لانه هي الاول جزء البرين المخ اللي يتطور. So the first part of the brain to develop. وراح بحكي هلا بإنجليزي لأنه ما عندي كل الكلمات technical to talk about the brain. But anyways, that was fun. So here we have we're looking at the brain stem, but we're going to talk principally about in this video about the hindbrain. And that makes up, there's 3 main structures. The first being, and my thinking for starting with the hindbrain is because our brain develops the hindbrain first. And our whole brain develops from it starts at a small neural tube and then works sort of from the inside out into what becomes a much bigger frontal brain and a brain that ends up weighing about 3 pounds. But it really starts from this little neural tube that goes downwards into the brain stem and then comes out into the brain. And so the first main area is the medulla oblongata, and you can see that in this area right here. And so my wife, who's a math teacher, pointed out that oblong is a shape like a long rectangular shape, and so that kind of makes sense when you look at it here. And I'm going to show you also on this screen. Let me just pull that up really quickly. So on a few different views, we can see the medulla is here. We can also see the medulla down here. So this is a posterior view of the medulla, and then this is I think a sagittal view. So yeah, in these areas, well, in the medulla, it's a very important part of the brain, and this I think would just naturally make sense considering how primary it is in terms of its development and its function in other animals. Um, and so the hindbrain in general consists of two major divisions. The first being the myelencephalon, which is what contains the medulla, and then the latter being the medencephalon. But yeah, we're talking about the medulla right now. And the medulla really plays a big role in movement and communication. And so it's let's say like very important for relaying information between your spinal cord and your brain. And again, this kind of just makes sense when you're looking at its positioning with down at the bottom of the, right before it turns into the brainstem. And so your brain and spine communicate through columns of nerve fibers that run through your medulla called spinal tracts. And these tracts can be ascending, so sending information up towards the brain, or descending, carrying information away from the brain towards the spinal cord. And yeah, this is an important part of the brain, and damage to the medulla could lead to an inability to relay a specific type of message between your brain and your body. So obviously very important. And the medulla also contains a part of the reticular formation, which we'll mention later again, a couple times maybe. So won't go too deep into the reticular formation. But yeah, the medulla also contains nuclei that control vital functions, such as regulation of the cardiovascular system, respiration, and skeletal muscle tonus. So yeah, let's move on from there to the pons. And the pons, as you can see, is just above the medulla right here. And it is a bulge, really. It's a large bulge in the brainstem. And we'll pull up the screen share again. And so, yeah, here's the pons. You can see the bulge. Can't really see the pons here because it's a posterior view, but you can see it again here. And then this is an anterior view of the brainstem, so you can see it well right here. So the pons has similar roles to the medulla, really. It contains, like the medulla, a portion of the reticular formation, including some nuclei that are important in sleep and arousal. And that's really what a lot of people think about when they think about the pons, and just how like it's involved in our REM sleep. So yeah, I mean, like main functions of the pons deal with the sensation and motor function, and especially for the head and the neck. 4 of the body's 12 cranial nerves are in the pons. And yeah, these nerves focus on motor responses and eye and facial movement. And so injury can occur in the pons from a number of traumas to the brainstem, and this could impair these cranial nerve functions. And because of that, you might experience damage to facial sensation, eye movement, hearing, taste, and other bad things like that. And so finally, last but not least, we have the cerebellum. And let's look also at the cerebellum on our screen share. so we've got that here. This is anterior, so you're looking from the front. You can also see it here and again here. And so it's called basically the little brain. You can tell it kind of resembles a brain because of its cerebellar cortex instead of cerebral. And it also has two hemispheres, the right and left hemisphere, just like the frontal brain. And the cerebellum also is very important. It's covered by cerebellar cortex with a deep set of cerebellar nuclei, and these nuclei receive projections from the cortex, and then they send projections out of the cerebellum to other parts of the brain. So important in communication to and from the brain. And one of its chief roles is within movement and balance. So it helps us maintain our balance. The cerebellum has special sensors that detect shifts in balance and movement, and it sends signals for the body to adjust and to move. And so likewise, it helps to coordinate movement. Most of our body movements require the coordination of multiple muscle groups. And so the cerebellum times muscle actions so that the body can move smoothly. And it even helps the body to learn movements that require practice and fine tuning. So for example, the cerebellum plays a role in learning to ride a bicycle or how to play a musical instrument. And it also helps with vision coordinating because it helps to like coordinate eye movements. And one main symptom of damage to the cerebellum is ataxia. And ataxia is a loss of muscle coordination and control. So that just makes sense. It plays a big role in balance and muscle movement. And so damage is going to cause a loss of muscle coordination and control. But this also ends up leading pretty quickly to speech difficulties as well. And that also makes sense because the tongue requires muscle coordination and movement. And yeah, each hemisphere of the cerebellum is attached to the dorsal surface of the pons by bundles of axons. So those are three principal structures of the hind brain. And yeah, we're gonna stop there, and we'll make another video later.